Ruth McCrackin and Trasetta Washington, two top-notch career and business strategists, are here to help you defy standards and break boundaries. Join them as they share powerful insights that have already impacted thousands of people and will have a major impact on your career, life balance, and business.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to Breaking Boundaries. Hey, Trasetta.
Hey,
I'm so
Ruth.
glad that you are here. I am so ever grateful to be part of your world, and we're part of this arena of taking ourselves, breaking our boundaries, and then allowing ourselves to be released. Listen, if you all are coming in, I want you all to know that we're about to shift things just a little bit because we've been behind the scenes just allowing ourselves to be true in our human side of us. I know we're going to talk about how we had all this all mapped out and laid out for you all, but we said, you know what? Let's be true to self and to you all as well, because it matters to us that breaking boundaries we're talking about today. We'll talk about the topics and we'll go in. I think, what you think, Trasetta? Should we just jump right on in, or should we show our intro? I mean, because I think if they don't know us by now, we can maybe share that somewhere in between the convo, but solely up to you if you want to share them.
Let's just go ahead and dive in. Let's dive in. I feel like we were already having a really great conversation, and before we hit go live, and I think let's keep that momentum going. They can go check out our profile. How about that?
I love it.
Yes. To get to know who we are if you don't know who we are.
I love it. So let's get started, because listen, I know that you all, for those who've been following us, we've been talking about self-care. We've been talking about achieving. What ways can we do this work-life balance? How do we disrupt this way of behaving and our mind, and being addicted to the day-to-day operation in our work, and how our schedule has been overwhelming and just taking too much of us. I hear from you all the time. So does Trasetta, just having to go back, and we thought about what ways can we evolve with you all and let you all know some of the events that we've came across personally, individually, and also stories of other high performers and leaders who said enough is enough. If that is you, I want you to pause, take out your earplugs and put them in, or, isolate yourself. You may want to even break away from your desk and say, oh Lord, let me see what Trasetta and Ruth have in play today. Because no, this is all seriousness and with love. And I want you to give yourself grace to pay attention, because you may want to even go back and hit the replay, right? And go in. So we were talking about some instances, and our main topic is about self-care. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's been huge, right, Trasetta? A lot of people are talking about self-care. However, are you truly creating this self-care atmosphere?
Yeah.
Are you really?
We've been on this. We've been on this series. This is week 3 or part 3, I think, of our From Burnout to Bliss series, and it's important for us to have conversations that just that, right? Have conversations around the things that are critical to breaking the boundaries that we have in our lives so that we can achieve all that we desire to achieve. And some of the stories that we were sharing with each other from our clients or even potential clients, as well as our own stories before we got started, we felt like they were crucial conversations to have with you all so that you can start to see, one, you're not alone, right? Everyone kind of experiences this. It's while we have our own individual journeys, it's not something that is unique to you. You're not alone. And that there is hope. There is a pathway to get to more balance in your life. And I think that by us sharing our own stories and those that we were just, of some clients that we've come across or other people that we've come in contact with, that it'll inspire and encourage you to find ways to incorporate these things into your own life so that you can ditch that burnout, ditch that overwhelm, and ditch the stress.
Agree. Because how many of you all can relate that? You may be feeling it. You may be saying, you know what, I'm just going to muscle through this. I'm going to go ahead and just go to work, plug in, knowing that you do not want to be dealing with all these personality traits, and you're finding yourself like, well, is that making me not being the spiritual person that I am? If you maybe have a certain religion or Christianity, that's which I follow, and it's like, I don't want to even be this version of me right now because I am just tired. I have gifts, I have purpose, my mental health is being impacted, and when do I put time for self? When do I unplug? Is it wrong for me to unplug and tell my manager that, hey, listen, I'm going to have to take a break? And it's like, okay, sure, take 2-3 days. No, not that type of break. I need longer. I need a longer break. I appreciate you saying take a couple of days. I hear you, but I think I need longer. Sometimes, how many of you all can tell us in the comments that when you get laid off, or you've been notified that your role is no longer available, and it just puts you on survival mode, or you feel like, well, what? As after all I've done, or maybe the opposite. Well, thank goodness, because I've been already feeling that way. And I guess it just needed the company to give me that notice. If that is
Or
true.
what about Ruth? What about when you are going hard for the company that you work for and giving it your all? You're working the long hours, you're sacrificing your own personal time because you're wanting to be promoted, or you're looking for opportunities for growth, and you want to be seen as a go-getter, as someone who is for the company, and then you get passed over.
Ooh,
You
who
get
can
passed
relate
over
with
for
that?
the promotion you were working for. What about that?
Let me tell you, no, that is absolute facts. As a matter of fact, I spoke with a gentleman. He has a master's in humans development services, and he was saying, Ruth, I love what I do. I work for a very reputable university here in Florida, and I'm not being recognized. I'm not being rewarded. And I work and I love what I do. He said he loved what he's doing, but he's not seeing the return on his investment. Although the company might see the return on their investment of hiring him, but he don't feel it or see that he's being rewarded. Right?
Yeah.
How many of you all can understand and appreciate that you've been putting others ahead of you? And again, where do self-care priority fall within your reach? Where you're taking a mental break, where you're looking at self and doing a health check of your emotions. Is your emotions taking the best of you? Remember, I told you a story about a gentleman who said that he told me, I've been doing this for years. I wake up feeling with this urgency of getting up, and my heart is rushing, and my day is starting off already with me having this full of emotions. He said, that's the norm for me. And he was like, Ruth, if he feels that's the norm for him, he's not going to live long. He's not going to, for him to always feeling impulse. And he's a leader. He is in the C-suites. And he's waking up every morning with his heart already on the treadmill, running at least 4 or 5 miles an hour. And he's still on the bed. He's still laying in the bed. But the body, as though it's operating in that aptitude, that speed. And he says, that's my life for the last few years. I think that's normal, isn't it? And he was genuinely that's his response. And I looked back and I said, oh my gosh, how many of you all can maybe take a piece of that story and say, me too. I too feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ruth, I really would love for you to kind of share, the potential client that you had the meeting with, that you were talking about before we went live, and how kind of where she was, because there was a revelation. I'll say it this way. There was a revelation that you said that she shared with you that I think is really important for the conversation around not why work-life balance, not so much why work-life balance is important, but how it impacts your life when you don't have it.
When you don't even have the awareness behind it. So let me tell you this remarkable being that came across my news feed and came into our inbox and scheduled a call with me. Beautiful, amazing, wonderful Black woman, young lady, beautiful. And she has a master's in bioscience, biology science, something like that, working for a reputable pharmaceutical company. She came with me with a struggle. She said, Ruth, I got laid off back last month, and I'm the breadwinner in my family, although her partner is contributing, but she's the heavy kicker when it comes to the finances, right? And she said, Ruth, I come to you because I want to be able to obviously, go back into the arena and get myself all marketed, making sure I'm able to stand out. For those who may not know what I do, yes, I'm a talent strategy partner. I help high performers to be able to stand out. And in this case, she wanted to be able to stand out because she was laid off for 30 days. And the point is, she came and said, here's my problem. I've been away from work and I know I need to go back, but I realized after taking a break for these 30 days that I look back the last 10 years, a decade, I've only been attracting entry-level jobs. And although I love what I do, Ruth, I wasn't being rewarded. And not only that, I looked back and realized how my job was controlling me and my time, that I was not even taking into consideration my family, my partner, my children, how my family was impacted by my time. And I look back and say, now I'm able to have this time back to spend with my family, the ones that love me and care about me. I sat with that with her on the call. She was like, I was able to have a mental health kumbaya moment where I'm able to have a self revelation that my job was controlling me and I wasn't even getting rewarded for it as a master degree in bioscience, working for a reputable, health pharmaceutical company. And she's like, I need to take a pause. So she was like, although I would love to have your services, she said, let me circle back with you. I need to talk. She said she was going to talk to her partner. We was going to follow up that evening, which we did. She sent back a note. She was spending time with family. She said, Ruth, I'm so sorry we missed our follow-up. I talked to my husband. She was genuinely about it because she sent me a really long describing her time away when she had fun with her kids, with her family. She was like, my partner told me, take a year off, really take a mental health break and really reflect, what is it that you truly want to do for the next chapter in your life and even in your career? And she said, I agreed with him. And mind you, would that have been the same version of her maybe 30 days prior, taking the day off if she didn't get that layoff, where she had to sit with self for those few weeks and realizing that her body was still wanting to go back to her 9 to 5 hustle and flow of her day in the life, which, don't get me wrong, she loved what she did. But the question she didn't get a chance to ask herself was, am I prioritizing me and my family and having that true work-life balance? Or am I fully embedded to giving all of me and less of me to the ones I truly love?
Yeah.
If that is you today, I want you to give yourself the grace and start reflecting on what matters to you the most. What do you think? What do you say about that? That was incredible. When she told me that story, I had an epiphany moment, and I shared with her, and we'll talk about that later. But what do you propose others should do as far as a solution if they're sitting there saying, me too, Ruth, me too, Trasetta?
Yeah. It's I love that. I love this story, or it's not a story. This is someone's life, right? So it's not just a story. This is not like some made up antidote, right? This is someone's real life. But there's a few things that I really love about what she shared with you. One is that until she got into a place where she was not going into the office, where she didn't have anywhere to be, she didn't have the obligation. It wasn't until she got there that she realized how little time she was spending with her family and with her partner.
Yes.
Not only that, herself.
Herself.
Right. And so I think that that's one of the things that the pandemic did as well. I think that's what part of the reason why this topic of work-life balance has become so popular and so
Yes.
mainstream, because all of a sudden when everything shut down and we had nowhere to be and nowhere to go, all of a sudden we started to recognize how tired we were, how many different things that we were doing that really didn't matter, that we didn't even want to do. We were doing them just out of obligation
Out of
or
obligation.
expectation, not
Yes.
because it was something that we desired. And we
Come through.
started to really enjoy this
Yes.
freedom that we had with our time. So the conversation really should go around, how do I start to create more balance in my life? How do I begin to
Yes.
prioritize
Yes.
myself, my own self-care, so that I can show up as the best version of me, so that I can give the best of me to myself first, then to
Yes.
the people who are most important to me, and then after that, everyone else. But
Yes.
I hear already, like, I can already feel those of you who are watching saying, but Trasetta, Ruth, how the heck am I supposed to? I can't go take a year off. I can't even go take a week off right now because there's so much going on. So how in the world am I going to be able to create space for me to get some self-care? I don't even have time to take a break and eat lunch.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? Because there are many people whose their work schedules are so jam-packed, their lives are so jam-packed that getting a meal is an inconvenience for them. Right? So they're going to sit there drinking their cup of coffee all day long and then maybe grabbing some sort of unhealthy snack out of the vending machine, or running through someone's drive-through, eating in the car on their way from between meetings, or wherever their next appointment is. And so I think that is the real conversation that needs to be had. How do I make space when my schedule is already jam-packed?
And not only jam-packed, but why is it jam-packed? Is it truly jam-packed? And is it truly jam-packed with the priorities in
right
place?
there.
Yes.
Is it jam-packed?
Is it really truly jam-packed? And I was listening to a podcast earlier where a doctor, a cardiologist, was saying where some of his patients would come in and they would take tests, glucose tests, so see if they're high blood pressure. And although it might be slightly to be considered potentially a diabetic person or someone that may have heart conditions, when he shifted their diet, it shifted the trajectory on how they feel, how they think, and how they showed up. Prior to that, and I don't know if you all may agree, he almost sensed it to where it could be the same type of symptoms as an addict, as someone who's overdosing or being addicted to, is having, and I don't know off the top of my head what the true definition of what the web definition is of addict or addiction, but just think about it. If you've been doing the same thing over and over again, and you're so used to it, and then if you stop doing it, your body and your mind tends to trigger certain chemicals. And this is my opinion.
No, that's science. There's actual scientific research around what you're talking about.
Yes. And you're accustomed to doing this certain condition and routine every day, maybe eating, like you said, sitting at your desk, missing meals and just drinking coffee, and that caffeine drilling is drawing some sort of rush. And then the moment you just go stagnant and stop because someone just threw a layoff notes or a notification in your inbox that today's your last day, you need to go ahead and pack your box and go. But your body is still running on that same adrenaline that you've been doing for the last 5 years, 10 years, if not more.
Yeah.
What do you do to now contribute to being who you are and what you're wanting to do as far as your self-priority, your self-care, right? And when I heard that earlier, I was like, these are the people that I talk to on an ongoing basis. Not giving themselves permission to think of what are they doing, being really present, being fully mindful. Am I truly doing what I truly love? Although I love what I do, but am I being rewarded? Am I being identified as a true leader? Is the people around me creating a culture and an environment that radiates empowerment, that radiates advancement, and also work-life balance, where I can go back home and enjoy my loved ones?
Ruth, oh my gosh, so many things. My mind is kind of racing. There's so many different things that I feel like we can kind of pull out of what you just said. I want to go back to what you were talking about, like kind of this addiction. We talked last week about nutrition and how that plays a role in your work life, how you feel, right? And your ability to be able to show up for the work that you do. But when we talk about addiction, I think we would all agree that alcoholism is an addiction.
1,000%.
Right?
1,000% agree.
So then why do we have the term workaholic?
Ooh.
Is it not an addiction as well?
Oh my gosh. It absolutely is.
An addiction?
Yes.
Right? Because how many people, we all know that one person or that one boss, that one manager who has no life outside of the office place. So they pour themselves into their work to escape the loneliness, the emptiness, and all the things that are not going right in their personal life. So they pour themselves completely and totally into their work.
I think the people need to hear this. I think this is the radical time that each individual who's listening live or in the comments and then going back to hearing the replay is saying, I needed to hear this. This is for me. And if that is you, we are not only wanting you to hear it, what are you doing to perhaps take action and deliver yourself from this addictive way of working every day and not adding your life and your loved ones and yourself included, within this roadmap, within this blueprint? How do you change that? How do you now say, well, I haven't really given myself that thought about it. When the gentleman told me that this was my life for the last 10 years, this is normal. And I looked back and said, do you really think this is normal? He had to sit with that and give himself an epiphany moment as though, I don't know, maybe this isn't normal. Is this truly what I signed up for? Because I asked him, is this what you truly signed? Well, no, this is just what I believe to be normal. How many of you all can say that you're wanting to rewrite and break these breaking boundaries of what you thought to be normal, but it really isn't, because it's impacting your mental, it's impacting your health, and most importantly, it's probably impacting your loved ones who maybe have their bags packed up on the side of the door, ready to go, because enough is enough. Do you want to wait till you get the pink slip or the layoff notification? For those millennials and the Gen X, and they may not know what the pink slip theory is. It's basically you getting that email from your manager indicating that corporate is doing a restructure or a layoff, and we're letting you all know that there's going to be some shifting and changing, and your department may be impacted. Or they may just come verbally right to your desk and say, can we have a moment and talk?
Yeah.
Who can relate? Who can understand that? Okay, I'm clear on what Ruth is describing as a shift of layoffs or notified being that you're no longer going to be part of this company or organization. Right.
One thing that we hear, Ruth and I here at the Breaking Boundaries podcast want to do is, this has been a very heavy conversation. And one thing that we always want to do is make sure that we arm you, that we equip you with some strategies, some techniques, some things that you can take and implement so that you can break through the boundaries in your own life, that you can shift your trajectory so that you can create the success you desire, so that you can achieve all the things that you really want to do. And so we want to take a moment before we close out to just kind of share with you just a few things that you can do. This is by no means an exhaustive list. These are just a couple of things that you can take now and start to implement into your day-to-day life so that you can start to create more balance, create more space for you and the things that are most important to you. And the very first one is to set some boundaries.
Absolutely.
Right? Create some boundaries in your life between your work life and your personal life. That may look like taking your email off of your phone or setting it up so that it doesn't send you push notifications so that you actually have to go log into your email to be able to see what is there. It may look like having conversations with your colleagues or with your supervisor and saying, after this time of day, I am no longer available for whatever, unless it's an emergency. It may look like saying, on my days off or when I'm on vacation or after hours, send me a text or send me a Teams message or a Slack message, whatever system you use, send me a message. And when I am available, I will respond, right? Start to set the expectation, and not only set the expectation, but then you actually have to hold the boundary.
I like that you say that, because holding the boundary, because a lot of us may already write this down. If I can share some of my story where I wrote something down to myself in 2021, where I made a decision because I wanted to set boundaries. I wanted to go full throttle in what I love and what I enjoy doing for high performers. And I love the fact that you're wanting to describe the setting boundaries. That's what I did. But it may not take you a whole year to do it. But this is something that it takes courage and it takes discipline and it takes you removing fear from being the driver. And don't get me wrong, fear is not the deficit for everything that we do. Sometimes we need the fear in order to get into the driver's side. And so in this case, I needed the fear to get into the driver's side and saying, are you going to wait another year to go ahead? And let me tell you what I was holding off and doing is going ahead and sending the email to my manager that I was resigning. Nothing wrong with the company. Love what I did. Enjoyed what I worked when I did as a consultant for clients and other enterprises, what have you, in the human resource technology realm, right? Love what I did, but I sat with myself and I realized that I wanted to give myself grace to get that work-life balance for Ruth. And that was what my decision was for that moment in time. And I did it afraid. Although I had in my notes inside my phone, the resignation letter from 2021, January of 2021. I copied and pasted, took it out of my notes on my phone and put it in Outlook. I tweaked it a little bit because I've grown since then when it comes to communication. And I refined it and I hit send. Early that morning, it had been like about 6 a.m, close to 7. And I ran away. And I ran, who can relate where I hit send and I ran away from my laptop. And I was like, okay, I did it. I felt a whole heavy load of the brick falling off of my shoulders. I was like, you did it. And I almost feel like my ancestors were cheering me on and saying, good job, faithful one, you did it. And that may not be huge for you, but it was huge for me at that beck and call. So when Trasetta is sharing with you all that it matters to us that you're setting boundaries, you're giving yourself the liberty of sending those text messages out to your managers, sending those text messages out to your subordinates, like, hey, this is me time. This is me time. Whatever is needing to be done, I'm pretty sure you all can handle it until I get back. And say it with love. And they got to be able to appreciate it. We don't want to constantly just live in urgency care, like urgency always wanting to care for something else outside of you, right? So I just wanted to pause and let you all know that not just setting boundaries, but doing it afraid. Yeah. Let fear know that they can now be on the passenger side this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else I think would be helpful is to learn how to say no.
Mm. Yeah.
Learn how to say no. One of the things that I primarily work with women, executive women, and um, we specifically tend to have difficulties telling people no because we're naturally nurturers. We want to help and we want to support people. And what that ends up looking like is taking on all these different things for other people to the exclusion of being able to do things for ourselves. And a lot of times it's not even stuff that we want to do. And so here I want to share with you a quick little tip or strategy or technique. That's the word I want to find.
Yeah.
A quick technique that you can use to filter these requests, right? So whether it comes via text, an email, or a conversation, here's how you respond so that you create space for you to make a decision and not just react to the request.
Come on. Yes, right? Come through.
So here's what you do. When someone brings a request to you, however it comes in, and it's whatever the request is, you first ask yourself this one question. Do I want to do this?
Yes.
Right? Ask yourself the question, do I want to do this? First, this is what I always say. Before I even get there, I will respond and say, so that I don't leave people in a lurch. I don't leave them just kind of hanging. I'll say, let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you.
Yes.
Right. So that gives me the window, right? That gives me a window to be able to actually respond and not react, which is two completely different things. Right. So once you've got your window, then you start to think about the request. One, is it something that I want to do? If I do not want to do it, then I have already set the expectation that I've looked at my calendar, and now I can go back and say to the person, I'm sorry, I'm not available.
Right. I like that.
Now it doesn't matter if my calendar is completely wide open, right? I can have nothing on my calendar, but they don't know that. And all I'm simply saying, and it's not a lie, I'm just simply saying to them, I'm not available for that.
Yes.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Being creative with your return of your message back to whoever you're looking to address these expectations.
So that's question one, right? You ask, do I want to do it? Then if the answer is, we already covered if the answer is no, right? Now, if the answer is yes, I do want to do this. Then the next question that you need to ask yourself is, do I have time for this? Right? So then you got to go look at your schedule, look at your calendar and say, do I actually have the time? Do I have the capacity to take this on? And if your schedule is already jam-packed, then you got to go back to the person and say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not available for that. Or maybe you suggest, like, I'm not available to do that, but this is how I can support you, right? Maybe you don't have the time or the capacity to support them in that way. Maybe there's another way that you can support them in the same thing, right?
I like that.
Or if you do have the time, then you can go back and say, yes, I'm available, right? So ask those two questions, give yourself an out, and then ask yourself those two questions before you respond to the request. And that will make sure that you're only putting things on your schedule, on your calendar that you actually want to do, and that you have the capacity for, so that you're not overbooking yourself doing things that you will be resentful for, or just don't even really want, because you're not going to, if you don't want to do it, you're not going to bring your best self to it anyway. So why even bother?
Why even bother? You see how setting these boundaries can actually help you become this breaking boundaries ambassador in your life. You see how what we're asking you to do to now help. Do you see how this can help you with your self-esteem? How it can allow you to get back to your human self, your body conditions, maybe going to always be in rapid mode. Your emotions are now starting to evolve and be balanced more, and saying, you know what? I'm feeling good. I feel good about myself. I feel great. I'm actually becoming more aware that burnout to bliss can truly exist in my life.
Absolutely.
It can truly become a matrimony within my day-to-day operation in my life and in my career and also in my business. Let us know in the comments, has this been a session of a breakthrough empowerment where it now allows you to define your self-care because we talked about quite a bit. We share with you all some human stories behind that you're not alone. And we even talked about how to set some boundaries. We gave you some strategies around it and what ways to candidly say no and hold on to it, right? And being able to embrace some of that self-care attributes. You may not need to take a whole year off, but you may also want to just give yourself the grace on what is my expectations with my work? What is my expectations with myself? And also anyone that's maybe tied with you, and really being clear about it, and then holding yourself and do it afraid. Do it afraid. It's okay. It's all right to make choices where it involves you. And you might think, well, that's being selfish. That's not being truly who I am. And I want you all to take this, and you may want to go back. I said it before. You may want to go back and hit replay, because let us know that you saw this to be an opportunity to give you this revelation and full clarity of rewriting some of these rules that you've been holding yourself bound to for all these years, all these weeks, all these months, even before COVID.
I also, let's also encourage them to share this with someone that you care about, who may find themselves in a position where they are on the verge of burnout, where they're on the verge of just not giving up. Share this with them for a word of encouragement so that they can go from burnout to bliss.
I agree. And you all know that this is an opportunity for you to help increase our awareness by sharing it with those and maybe in your mutual community, and let them be aware that this is a common, how would I like to call this? This is a common, I wouldn't want to call it a hurdle because it's not. This is a common symptom or this is something that has been a crutch or a detriment. It's just not right. Let's just be real. It's just not right. It's just not right. And I want you all to have an opportunity to just hold that into your day-to-day and take time to embrace it and love yourself. And love the fact that you stayed and hanged out with us today. It's been a joy as always. Let us know that you will always want to know what ways to break these rules and breaking boundaries. Continue following us. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Join and subscribe with career strategist Ruth McCrackin and business strategist Trasetta Washington to the Breaking Boundaries podcast each week. You too can experience the limitless potential of rewriting rules and creating an extraordinary future for yourself.